Hello there! This video will show you how to use the Pivot Tables feature in Microsoft Excel 2016 to create joint frequency distribution tables and bar charts, joint relative frequency distribution tables and bar charts, where you're looking at the percent of the grand total, and also conditional relative frequency distribution tables and bar charts, where you're looking at the percent within a particular group that you wish to compare. So we are using the sports shoe data here, where each row represents an individual person, and then each column represents a different variable that data was collected from each person. So for this particular video, we are going to focus on brand preference right here and also gender or sex. So we're going to see if there's a difference in brand preference based on sex, and we're also going to look at if there is a difference in shoe brand or in sex based on shoe brand. So we're going to look at two different ways to compare variables, two different types of conditional probabilities here in a minute. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start a pivot table looking at gender and brand preference. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these two things together. So I'm going to copy brand preference. So just click this G up here, Control C to copy, go over here, Control V to paste, and that way I can easily select the two things that I want to put into my pivot tables. So once you do that, go up to the Insert tab up here, select Pivot Table, and then just highlight the M and the N there for gender and brand preference. Also make sure that the New Worksheet option is selected. Once you get your new worksheet, you can just name this Brand Pref and Gender. All right. If you click out, your little field list goes away, but if you click back in, it's all good. Now, for the first set of tables, I am going to be looking at what is the sex of most customers based on shoe brand. So remember, whatever variable that you wish to make comparisons based on needs to be the basis of your rows. And right now, I'm comparing Adidas versus Nike, and I'm looking at the sex or gender of customers within Adidas and within Nike separately, eventually. So I am going to put gender as the basis of my columns and brand preference as the basis of my rows. Now this is only critical when you get to the conditional frequency distribution tables, but we might as well just keep it this way for all of the ones that we're going to create. So again, we're going to compare the different sexes within each brand preference for now. Make sure also that you grab one of these variables. It doesn't matter which. You can put brand preference here, or you could put gender here. It doesn't matter. It's still going to give you the same count. Now before we get started, let's clean this table up because we're going to be copying and pasting this table and kind of using it as a template. So let's go ahead and make sure we get rid of this blank here and this blank here. So you'll click the little tab, little arrow thing next to row labels and uncheck blank. Click OK. Then over here, column labels, click the little arrow thing, uncheck blank, click OK. Now this is looking a little cleaner and nicer. Also here, I'm going to put brand instead of row labels. And then here we've got female and male, grand total, that's totally fine. And also, just because I can't help myself, I need to center this, it's driving me crazy. Actually, I'm going to left align this first one and then center the rest. All right, there we go. So at this point, we know that out of all 100 customers, 48 prefer Adidas and 52 prefer Nike. Out of all 100 customers, 43 are female and 57 are male. And then finally, out of all 100 customers, 21 were female who prefer Adidas, 27 were male who prefer Adidas, 22 were female who prefer Nike, and 30 were male who prefer Nike. Let's go ahead and create a bar chart to display this data as well before we move on to doing the relative frequencies. So make sure that you are clicked somewhere in this table. Go up to the Pivot Table Tools, click Analyze, and then select Pivot Chart. Column is the default, and that's what we want to use, so sweet. Click OK. Let's kind of drag this over. Now, I'm not loving the format of this just yet. I want to add axis labels. So with the chart selected, go to Design, Add Chart Element, Axis Titles, Horizontal, Add Chart Element, Axis Titles, Vertical. So here we're going to put brand, or shoe brand if we want to be real specific. And then over here, we're going to put number of customers. And here we can see that our shoe brand, Adidas versus Nike, is represented along the x-axis. The different colored bars represent male versus female. And of course, the height of the bars represent the frequency or the total number of customers. Now, it's important to note that you can make edits to this. And if you copied and pasted this into Word, it would look pretty. It wouldn't have all these labels here. It would look nice. Let's see if we can do a little bit design change here. Let's say that I want males to be, and I just right clicked to get this option to pop up. So I clicked the bar, right, click it, right click. Let's say that I want males to be green. Look at fix that here and here. And let's say that I want females to be purple. Cool. You can make any edits you want. You can also play with the different layouts to see how you want to make it look. But for now, just keep it like this because we want it to be a bar chart. We want it to be separated. And you don't have to play with the colors in your assignment. I'm just showing you those options. I just want the basics here. Just make sure you're labeling everything and everything looks like mine does. All right, now let's move on to a joint relative frequency distribution table and bar chart, looking at the gender based on brand preference. So let's go ahead and highlight this whole table. And we're going to, actually, no, before we do that, I'm going to add some data labels here. It's kind of bothering me. So let's go to Design, Add Chart Element, Data Labels. You can do center, inside end, inside base, outside end. I kind of like outside end here, so we're going to do that. Okay, now I'm happy. Let's move on. Okay, copy your table. Control C to copy, or go up here and click copy. I'm going to kind of scoot down here. Control V to paste. Now, instead of looking at the absolute frequencies, we want to look at the percent of the grand total, or the relative frequencies. So we can just click anywhere in here, go to, and right click, show values as percent of grand total, and there we have it. So we know 21 out of 100%, or 21 out of 100 are females who prefer Adidas, and now we've got 21% are female who prefer Adidas. Now, since our grand total is 100, makes the percentages pretty similar to the raw frequencies, but you can imagine the difficulty of doing this on your own with nastier, harder to work with numbers, and this makes it really simple. And the nice thing is, since we copied and pasted, it keeps all of our little labels here, which I like. Okay, now let's go ahead and create a bar chart based on the percentages. So we go to, make sure this table is selected, Analyze, Pivot Chart, click OK. I'm going to scoot it down a little bit here. Boop. All right, I'm going to leave the colors the way they are. Why not? I'm going to go to my design tool and I'm going to add my axes. So horizontal and vertical. And again, we're going to put shoe brand here, but on our y-axis, we're going to label it, instead of number of customers, we're going to label it percentage of customers. And also, we're going to have our data callouts here, our data labels. So make sure design is selected under pivot chart tools. Make sure you click the graph to get that to pop up. Go to add chart element, data labels, outside end. Now, if you look at this, it's a little misleading. It looks like there's a ton of customers who are male and by Nike, but it's really only 30%. So let's edit our axis here, and you'll see right now it's the same exact picture as above, but let's edit our axis to be a little more accurate with the fact that we're looking at percentages, and this should go from 0 to 100. So you right click on those numbers, go to Format Axis, and you want your maximum to be a 1, so it goes up to 100%. I like that. That's better. Now we're looking at these percentages and we have them displayed this way. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else we need to do to this graph? I think it looks good. So let's go ahead and move on to a conditional relative frequency distribution table and bar chart. So now instead of looking at the percent based on this 100, we're going to be looking at the percent based on each row total. So whereas right now, this graph that we're looking at, all of these percentages added together equal 100%. When we do the conditional frequency distribution table and graph, the percentages for each group here will equal 100 and then here will equal 100. And I'll show you that here in a second. So it's going to be slightly different and it's going to help us make an interpretation. Now, granted, in this case, we don't have major differences in the number of different brand types or the different sexes. But I do want you to understand that whenever you're trying to look at the relationship between two variables, even if these frequencies are pretty close, it's best to do a conditional frequency distribution table where you're controlling for the difference in these frequencies and you're looking at that relationship. So let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to copy and paste. So Control C to copy, to paste. And now, instead of when we go to change the way we want to display this data, so we right click, show values as, not percent of grand total, but percent of row total. So this is saying that 21 out of 48 gives you that 43.75%. So instead of here where it says 21% of all customers were female who bought Adidas, this says that 43% of Adidas customers were female. So now we're just looking within Adidas customers, what percent were female, what percent were male. Whereas up here, we're saying within the entire sample, what percent were female who bought Adidas and what percent were male who bought Adidas. Let's go ahead and create a nice little bar chart here. So just click in the data, again, analyze, pivot chart, column is the default. Hooray, here we go. Now let's take a look at this. Again, let's fix this so that it is 100. So you just right click in the numbers, go to Format Axis, change this 0.7 to a 1, hit enter, and then exit out of there. Let's also click on the chart, go to Design, and let's add some chart elements. So we want our data labels, we want our axis titles as well. Here we go. So this again, shoe brand. And then here, let's be a little more specific. So we could say percentage of maybe males and females within each brand preference. That's a mouthful, but that allows the person who's looking at your table and your graph to understand that we're looking within each brand separately. And as I mentioned before, whereas up here, all of these percentages equaled 100, now if you take this plus this, it equals 100, and this plus this equals 100. All right, back to it. So at this point, this would answer the question, what is the sex of most customers based on shoe brand? And you can see here that Adidas, more males are buying Adidas than females. And within Nike, more males are also buying Nike or preferring Nike than females are. Now let's change it up a little bit. Let's do a situation where now we want to ask the question, what is the preferred shoe brand based on sex? So now we want this to be female and male and the bar colors to represent shoe brand. So we can do that pretty easily. Go up here, copy that original table again, Control C to copy. Let's paste it down here, Control V to paste. So let's go ahead and grab gender, move it to rows, grab brand preference, move it to columns. Now we've switched it up a little bit. You can see the difference here. Oh, what happened here? Let's double click it. There we go. Looking good. Okay, so now we're going to do the conditional probabilities based on the row totals again, but now female versus male is the basis of our rows. So we just right click in here, show values as percent of row total, and now we can just click in here, go up to analyze, pivot chart, there we go, make a couple of changes. So here we're going to say, let's go ahead and go to design, we're going to add our data labels, and we're going to add our axis titles. So this again is no longer shoe brand. Now it's gender or sex. Here, instead of saying, let's see if I can copy this and make edits to it. So instead of saying percentage of males and females within each brand preference, we're going to say, whoa. Okay, there we go. Fix that. Percentage of Adidas and Nike within each gender. All right. You can hand type that if the copy paste didn't work for you. Now let's right click on our numbers, format axis, and this needs to be a 1. And let's make our minimum a 0. Because look at how it looked before. It kind of overstates what's going on there. It makes the bars look very different. Whereas if you fix this to go from 0% to 100%. Oh, no, we want a 1, not a 100. A 1, there we go. There it's a little more accurate. It represents the fact that they're pretty darn close after all. So let's take a look at this and let's stretch it out a little bit so that our numbers aren't on top of each other. So now, whereas up here we could ask the question, what is the sex of most customers based on shoe brand? Now we can ask the question, what is the preferred shoe brand based on sex? And yet again, because we used the row for the basis of our comparisons and we did the percent of row total, these two percentages equal 100 and these two percentages equal 100, which makes it nice. If you do it a different way, it's not going to work out so well and it won't be as easy to interpret. And in fact, a lot of people will use these kinds of tables to be misleading with their data, which I'm not going to show you how to do that. Just know that this is the best practices for doing it. So now you see these are different, right? Because up here we were looking at, okay, within everybody who bought Adidas, what percent were female and what percent were male. Out of everybody who preferred Nike, what percent were female and what percent were male. But here we're looking at, out of all females, what percent preferred Adidas, what percent preferred Nike, and out of all males, what percent preferred Adidas and what percent of customers preferred Nike, male customers. All right, so I hope that you enjoyed learning about these tools in Microsoft Excel and you understand the importance of not only having an accurate axis here with your percentages, but also the interpretations that you can make based on the type of conditional frequencies or conditional probabilities that you're looking at.